They say you can tell a lot about a man by his shoes. But in this city, nobody looks down. They only look up, at the glass towers, the penthouses, and the dreams that cost $1 billion. They step over the men in the orange vests. They ignore the invisible workforce that cleans up the mess of progress. But what happens when the man sweeping the gutter understands the blueprints better than the man building the skyscraper? What happens when the trash on the street holds the keys to the city's future? You are about to hear a story about prejudice, hidden genius, and a meeting that changed a city forever. If you believe that talent comes from the most unexpected places, hit that like button right now. And if you want more stories about justice and truth, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's get into it. The sound of the broom was rhythmic, almost hypnotic. Scrape. Push. Scrape. Push. For 54-year-old Elias Thorne, the sound was a metronome counting away the seconds of a life that hadn't gone according to plan. It was 5:30 a.m. in downtown Chicago. The wind off the lake was biting, cutting through the thin layers of his neon yellow safety vest. Elias wasn't just cleaning, he was observing. He saw how the water pooled at the corner of 5th and Main because the grading was off by 2 degrees. He saw how the new luxury condos on the west side blocked the sunlight from the public park, killing the vegetation and driving away the morning foot traffic that local coffee shops relied on. He saw the gentrification gaps, where the poor were pushed out, but the retail spaces remained empty because the rent was too high for boutiques. He saw it all because Elias Thorne held a master's degree in urban planning and development from one of the most prestigious universities in the country. Life, however, cares little for degrees when tragedy strikes. 10 years ago, Elias had been a junior associate at a firm. Then came his wife's cancer. The insurance battles. The bankruptcy. The depression that swallowed him whole. When he finally resurfaced, he was 50, broke, and had a 10-year gap in his resume. The industry had moved on to younger, cheaper consultants. The only thing that would hire him was the Department of Sanitation. So, Elias swept. On this particular Tuesday, the city was buzzing. The Sterling Plaza project was underway, a massive, multi-million-dollar redevelopment plan for the crumbling South District. It was the baby of Julian Vance, a real estate mogul known for 2 things, his brilliant suits and his terrible temper. Julian Vance was currently standing on the sidewalk, just 10 feet away from where Elias was sweeping cigarette butts. Vance was red in the face, screaming into a cell phone, while a terrified young architect tried to unroll a blueprint on the hood of a parked Mercedes. "I don't care what the zoning commission says," Vance shouted, his voice echoing off the glass buildings. "The traffic flow model is garbage. If we put the entrance on 4th Street, we bottleneck the entire district during rush hour. We lose the tenants. Fix it, or you're fired." Vance slammed the phone down and looked at the blueprint. "It's impossible," he muttered to the young architect. "There's no way to route the commercial delivery trucks without cutting through the pedestrian plaza. It's a logistical nightmare." Elias swept closer. Scrape. Push. He glanced at the blue lines on the white paper. He knew that intersection. He knew the subterranean drainage pipes beneath it, and he knew the unspoken rhythm of the delivery drivers who used the alleyways at 4 a.m. "You're looking at it two-dimensionally," Elias said. His voice was gravelly and used to speaking to anyone in a suit. Vance froze. He looked up, scanning the area, and finally looked down at the black man in the dirty orange vest holding a broom. Vance's lip curled slightly, a reflex of the elite. "Excuse me?" "The delivery trucks," Elias said, leaning on his broom. "You're trying to route them through the main artery on 4th. You can't. The turning radius is too tight for an 18-wheeler because of the historic lampposts the city refuses to move." Vance stared at him. "And you know this because you sweep around them?" "I know this because I read the Municipal Preservation Code," Elias said calmly. "And I know that if you petition the city to designate the alley behind the structure as a loading zone between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., you can bypass the pedestrian plaza entirely. But you have to install permeable pavement to handle the weight of the trucks without cracking the sewer lines beneath." Silence descended on the sidewalk. The young architect's jaw dropped. Vance squinted, his eyes darting from Elias's worn boots to his calm, intelligent eyes. Vance was arrogant, but he was also a capitalist. He cared about winning more than he cared about social hierarchy. "Permeable pavement," Vance repeated. "That would increase drainage, solving the flood risk for the basement retail units." "Exactly," Elias nodded. "And it gives you LEED certification points for eco-friendly construction. The city will fast-track the permit if you go green. You save 4 months of red tape." Vance picked up the blueprints. He looked at the street sweeper, really looked at him, for the first time. "Who are you?" "Just the guy who cleans up the trash," Elias said, turning back to his work. "Have a good day, sir." "Wait," Vance snapped. He reached into his Italian silk suit pocket and pulled out a sleek black card. I have a finalized planning meeting with the city council and the investors in 2 hours. 9 a.m. Top floor of the Vance Tower. Be there. Elias chuckled dryly. I'm on the clock, Mr. Vance. And I don't think my uniform fits the dress code. I'll buy you a new shift. I'll buy the whole sanitation department if I have to, Vance said, his eyes intense. You understand the grid. None of these Ivy League kids I hire understand the grid. 9 a.m. Don't make me come find you. At 9:05 a.m., the boardroom of Vance International was a sea of gray and navy suits. The air smelled of expensive coffee and fear. The city planning committee was there, skeptical men and women with arms crossed. The investors were there, looking at their watches. They were waiting for Julian Vance to explain how he was going to solve the traffic crisis that was threatening to kill the Sterling Plaza project before it even broke ground. The double doors swung open. Julian Vance walked in. Behind him walked Elias Thorne. Elias was still wearing his work boots. He had taken off the neon vest, revealing a faded flannel shirt tucked into stained work pants. He held his cap in his hands. The room went silent. The silence wasn't respectful, it was heavy with judgment. A woman from the zoning commission wrinkled her nose. An investor whispered loudly to his neighbor, "Is the janitor here to empty the bins now?" "Gentlemen, ladies," Vance announced, taking the head of the table. "I'd like to introduce you to my new specialist consultant." A ripple of confused laughter moved through the room. Julian, the lead city planner, a man named Harrison, sighed. "This is a serious meeting. We are talking about a $100 million heavy infrastructure project. Why is a street sweeper in the room?" Elias felt the familiar sting of shame, the heat rising in his neck. He gripped the back of a leather chair. This was a mistake, he thought. "I belong outside." "Mr. Thorne," Vance said, ignoring Harrison. "Please explain to the board why their current proposal for the South District mixed-use zone is going to fail within 3 years." Elias looked at the giant digital map on the wall. He saw the lines. He saw the flow of people, energy, and money. He took a deep breath. He didn't see the suits anymore. He just saw the city. Elias walked to the front of the room. He didn't apologize. "The current plan relies on the assumption that the South District is a commuter hub," Elias began. His voice was stronger now, projecting like he used to in lecture halls years ago. "But it's not. It's a third-place community." Sociologist Ray Oldenburg defined third places as anchors of community life, barbershops, parks, stoops. He pointed to a block on the map marked for demolition to make way for a parking garage. "You plan to bulldoze the chaotic housing on 9th Avenue to build a parking structure for the new mall. On paper, that maximizes parking revenue. In reality, you are destroying the eyes on the street. Eyes on the street?" Harrison scoffed. "This isn't a Jane Jacobs poetry class. It's a security fact," Elias shot back, sharp and instant. Jane Jacobs proved that safety comes from pedestrian density and local ownership. If you remove those row houses, you create a dead zone at night. That parking garage will become a crime hotspot within 6 months. Crime goes up, property value in your luxury tower goes down. You'll lose 15% of your high-end tenants in the first year due to safety concerns. You are literally planning your own bankruptcy." The room went deadly quiet. The investors sat up straighter. Elias grabbed a marker and drew a new line on the glass board. "However," Elias continued, "if you utilize the subterranean level for parking, which is expensive but possible due to the bedrock depth here, and convert the surface level into a mixed-income market plaza, you keep the foot traffic. You keep the eyes on the street. You lower the crime risk. And," he looked at Vance, "you utilize the federal opportunity zone tax credits for community development, which offsets the cost of the digging by 40%. Elias capped the marker. "You don't just build a building," Elias said softly. "You weave a thread into a tapestry. If you pull the wrong thread, the whole thing unravels. Right now, you're holding a pair of scissors." For 10 seconds, the only sound was the hum of the air conditioner. Harrison, the lead planner, looked stunned. He squinted at Elias. Where did you learn about federal opportunity zone tax credits? That legislation was only passed last year." Elias reached into the back pocket of his dirty work pants. He didn't pull out a rag. He pulled out a folded, worn piece of paper, a photocopy he carried as a reminder of who he used to be. He slid it across the mahogany table. "I wrote my thesis on urban decay and economic revitalization in post-industrial hubs at Cornell University," Elias said. "I have a master's in urban planning. I spent 15 years in development before the recession and life took everything from me. I know the codes. I know the laws. And I know the city because while you fly over it, I clean every inch of it. Vance smiled a genuine, shark-like grin of victory. He looked at the stunned investors. Any other questions for my consultant? Vance asked. There were none. The meeting ended with a unanimous vote to adopt the revised plan, Elias's plan. As the room cleared out, men who had looked at Elias with disgust an hour ago were now awkwardly trying to shake his hand. Elias accepted them with grace, but he didn't linger. He walked over to Vance. Thank you for listening, Elias said. I should get back. My shift isn't over, and if the supervisor catches me. You're fired, Vance said bluntly. Elias's heart dropped. What? You're fired from the sanitation department, Vance said, pulling out a contract from his briefcase. Because I'm hiring you. Head of Urban Strategy for Vance International. Starting salary is $180,000 a year, plus bonuses. And I'm buying you a new suit. Elias stared at the contract. His hands shook slightly. He thought of the cold mornings. The invisibility. The years of being treated like furniture. Why? Elias asked. Because, Vance said, looking out the window at the sprawling skyline. There are plenty of people who can draw buildings, Elias. But there are very few who know how to build a home. Elias Thorne took the job. The Sterling Plaza became a model for modern urban development, profitable, safe, and inclusive. It didn't displace the community, it lifted it up. Elias never forgot where he came from. Every morning, before he went up to his office on the 40th floor, he would stop and greet the sanitation crew. He knew them all by name. He knew that the man sweeping the curb might just be the smartest person in the room, waiting for someone to hand him the marker. Narrator, we often judge people by the uniforms they wear or the jobs they do. We assume that a broom means a lack of education, or that a suit implies wisdom. But the truth is, genius is distributed equally, opportunity is not. Never look down on anyone unless you're helping them up. If this story moved you, please hit the like button to help us spread this message. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories of redemption and justice. Thanks for watching.